And so my name is Bonita Eloise Ford, and I am the Gen Z program lead for Climate Mental Health Network. And I just want to welcome all of you here this evening. I am based in what we call Perth, Ontario, which is unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. And we've been inviting folks to just introduce themselves in the chat. And if you want to share also whose traditional territories you're from. And yeah, just so grateful to have so many familiar names with us this evening, and to just grateful to all of our co-hosts and co-facilitators that are here with us this evening, and to the partners that have helped to make this event, this session possible. So I just wanted to ask Sarah, our CMHN's co-founder, to introduce our organization and just say a word about, yeah, just say a word about what brought us here, and then we'll do a quick check-in exercise, and then we'll spend a little bit of time chatting about the new study, the data that was released in the Lancet recently. But just a quick welcome for now from Sarah, please.
Hi, everyone. It's really wonderful to be with all of you tonight. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm in Washington, D.C. I started the Climate Mental Health Network about 3.5 years ago because of my own struggles with climate anxiety and looking for resources. And I'm just really grateful to Benita and all of the facilitators and presenters who you're going to meet tonight, as well as all of the organizational partners. I just want to give a big shout out and huge amount of gratitude. We organized this in Benita leading this in less than a week. The partners, we have the Student Conservation Association, the American Public Health Association, Capacity, CRE Task Force in New York City, Eco America, Climate Cardinals, the Clio Institute, the Bay Area Youth Climate Summit, One Green Thing, Youth on Route, and the Miami-Dade PTA Green Team. So a huge thank you to all of the partners and to all of you for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'd like to ask Laurel, actually, just before I do, so the beautiful music that you were hearing in the background was created by one of our co-facilitators here this evening, Aisha Nieta Brown, and also Sage, who the two of them were Gen Z advisors from last year. And so I'll drop the link to their beautiful sound and guided meditation tracks that they created last year. And I'd like to pass the mic to Laurel to lead us in a quick personal check-in.
Hi everyone, I'm Laurel Tamayo. I was born and raised in Hawaii and now live in Los Angeles. And please put in the chat any intros if you haven't already. It seems like we have people from all over the country and even outside of the country, which is really wonderful. And right now I am going to share the Climate Emotions Wheel that the Climate Mental Health Network put together. And we're just going to take a moment to take a few breaths and just notice how your body is feeling. And when you take a look at this wheel, note if there are any one or two of these emotions that you feel that you relate to most in this moment, and please drop them in the chat. Gratitude. Mhm. And what I love about this wheel is that I think typically when we think about climate and emotions, it's usually just climate anxiety, but really there's such a range of emotions that you can feel in connection to climate change, and they can be positive too. Amazing. Yes, and I love how some people are feeling both hope and sadness, hope and overwhelm. It is such a climate change is such a complex thing, and so we can be feeling both happiness and sadness about it at the same time. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Go ahead, Juanita.
Thank you, Laurel. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I just really want to invite everyone to use this space tonight as a space for self-care, for community support, and also if you are struggling, if you're having a hard time, please reach out to me or to Laurel or to Sarah while you're on the call. And we can encourage one of the co-facilitators to check in with you personally. And also, I've just dropped into the chat if I just again, if folks are struggling outside of this call, please do reach out for support. Reach out to someone that you trust. And if there isn't anyone that you can reach readily, then please reach out to a helpline or a crisis line. And I put a number of numbers here in the chat. So again, please take care of yourself. In this process, we just really want this to be a safe and supportive space. So next, I am just so very pleased to introduce McKenna Parnas. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Who is one of the researchers on this study that was recently published in the Lancet. And so I would love to turn this over to McKenna to give us a short summary, highlights of the data of this work that you've been doing and what was published this week. And I think, just what the importance of this piece.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a real honor to be here with you all. I'm currently a faculty member at the University of Washington in the Department of Pediatric Bioethics and Palliative Care. It's a mouthful. And a lot of my research focuses on climate change and youth mental health. And so I had such gratitude being part of this work because I think this is one of the biggest mental health crises that is facing young people today, this intersection of climate change and mental health concerns. And what this study it was researchers who were building on past work that did a global survey of climate emotions. And we were really interested specifically in the US context to understand how young people anywhere from 16 to 25 were responding to climate change. So this research included 16,000 young people across the United States. And what we were seeing, which I think is really striking and is kind of one of the biggest headlines that has come out of this, is that 85% of the young people in this study reported being worried about the impacts of climate change on the people on the planet. And this was seen across the political spectrum. So what we were noticing is that young people who identified as Democrats, Independent, and Republican, at least 74% or more were expressing worry about climate change. And I think so often older generations have been painting this as a partisan issue. And I think what gives me a lot of hope is that for myself and my cohort of folks and younger generations, we're really seeing this as an issue that is affecting all people, that is a nonpartisan issue that we all need to be coming together on. I think the other thing that was shared, I think Laurel was the one that said this, is that so often climate anxiety is the emotion that is talked about in the news. And actually there's such a range of emotions in response to climate change and the stress that young people are experiencing, as well as the hope that we feel and inspiration. But we are seeing that more than 60% said climate change makes them feel anxious, powerless, afraid, sad, or angry. And it's impacting ability to function daily and also plans and thoughts about the future, where people want to live, whether or not they want to have children, thinking about the work that they put into their education and future careers. And finally, what we're noticing is that young people are demanding responses from government, from education systems, from older generations. And I think that it's on all of us, myself included, to be thinking about what is my role in supporting youth and future generations in the context of their mental health. What is my role in taking action on climate change, and how can we build society capacity to engage in climate mitigation and adaptation efforts in response to what young people are calling for. So I think this was a really important survey and is hopefully going to center young people's voices in future movements towards climate adaptation and mitigation efforts.
Thank you so much, McKenna. I think it's this study, just having spent only a little bit of time looking through the results, for me, it lands with both clarity and kind of a sense of heaviness. You know, like on the one hand, I'm not surprised to see the results, and on the other hand, I just find it really brings the issue so front and center, and I really appreciated how you just the piece around it being a nonpartisan issue. I think that that is very affirming, that and it's not just a matter of ethics, like this is something that affects all of us. And so I just wanted to give folks an opportunity to ask just a few minutes. We'll just take 5 minutes for any Q&A here with McKenna, wondering if anyone has any questions about the study, about the results of the study. Sarah has put a link to the study in the chat. Anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or to type in the chat if you have a question.
I have a question for McKenna. I'm just curious, like, what was the process of choosing the emotions that you surveyed the youth about? Because I saw like optimism was the one kind of, I guess, more like positive emotion listed. So just kind of, yeah, what was like, how did you choose those specific emotions?
That's such a good question. So this survey actually tried to replicate the survey items that were used in this paper during a 2021 study that was this global study. So it was Hickman and colleagues who put out that paper. And those were the emotions that they used. And I think there have been a few other studies that are consistently using these emotions. And so I think what you end up seeing in research is that one person does something, and then in order to be able to replicate findings, that's often what continues. But, and I don't know if this is what you're asking or just thinking myself, I would love to see a broader spectrum of emotions that we're asking about, especially the positive emotions, because I think optimism doesn't really get at the range of positive emotions that young people could be experiencing. So I think to reduce survey burden, oftentimes we try to limit questions. And we did do focus groups with youth to check in about the items that were going to be shared. So there was some youth voice in that, but I would love to hear from you all and to think about future work at that, because I will use survey items as well. What would be most important for you to see in future studies that look at different emotions? So thank you for asking that.
Serenity, please go ahead.
Yeah, maybe it's somewhere on the link, but I didn't see it. How many people were surveyed? And I have a second question too, is there a study, or do you know of a plan for a study that would classify other things besides political party, like things like gender, diet, class, education level, something like that? I would be very interested.
Great questions. So this was 16,000 youth across the US, so a pretty large sample. And this study specifically looked at political party, but using this data, I know there's a lot of interest in looking based on gender and looking based on race, socioeconomic status. I'm currently working with a different data set that's slightly younger age group, but really interested in other aspects of health and how they relate to climate change and climate emotions. So there's definitely work that's ongoing. And again, the way that I conduct my research and studies I primarily lead is actually having young people co-create questions with me and look at this work. So if you ever had interest too in getting involved or like coming up with research questions, I would love to to be able to support that and have your voice included.
Thank you.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. So there's one from Collins Lee. Why do people have climate emotions? This might be a very silly question, but sorry, I'm new here. It's all good, Colin.
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think that people have emotional responses to so many things that are happening in the world. And so our responses to climate change are this natural extension of just an emotional response to any significant event. We can even have emotions to more neutral events, but climate change and the way people are responding, I think for years, people were maybe feeling the emotions, but they weren't really being talked about. And I think now there's much more space and language to think about how climate change and emotions are related to one another. But I really love that question.
Thank you. And there's a question from Laurel, a couple of questions. So are there any specific changes, policy or other, that you're hoping this research will inspire? Have you seen any movement already? I know it was just released though.
Yes, yeah, I have been involved in policy and advocacy related to this for the last couple of years, actually. And so there's a Community Wellness and Resilience Act that was supported, I think, by New York, Massachusetts, and a few other East Coast states. But this was really focused on community designed initiatives to respond to climate change in a resilience and mental health focused way, and other ways as well. We're also trying to push forward socio-emotionally informed climate change education and climate change education policy. So how are we educating younger generations about climate change in ways that is not just going to induce fear, but in ways that can inspire hope and action and resilience? So those are a few of the policy movements. Some states have been stronger than others, like New Jersey and Connecticut already have climate education requirements and policy put in place. New York is a state where I've been working on it. It's been more challenging. And then I live in Washington State, and we have a few initiatives here. But I would say this data is going to be really meaningful. I'm meeting with our governor in Washington this Saturday. And so we're going to be talking with this data in the context of climate and mental health policy.
Thanks so much, McKenna. Did I miss any other questions in the chat? There's a question from Amanda Lee. Is there similar research that collects or uses qualitative data?
Yeah, so I'm a qualitative data researcher. I haven't done, qualitative data, you can't do this level of study, but I did focus groups with young people thinking about climate change and mental health in the context of social media communication. I'm continuing that research for the next 4 years to co-create messaging with youth around climate change. And actually, the Climate Mental Health Network is a group that I'm partnering with in that, and so really excited. But there's definitely qualitative data that is out there, and I'm happy to share more studies that kind of give voice and lived experience to these numbers that we see that are kind of hard to access sometimes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, McKenna, I'm just so grateful for your work and for your presence and for being part of this conversation in this space this evening.
Thank you.
I would love to hear 1 or 2 highlights from the breakout rooms if anyone would be willing to share. You're welcome to share in the chat, or you're welcome to just unmute, just share a sentence about a highlight, an insight, something you appreciated in the breakout rooms.
I'll share something.
Sure,
Something
thank you.
that the Gen Z group we talked about was how seeing this data, it provides like a little bit of relief and also lots of hope, knowing that this doesn't have to be a partisan issue, and that more people care about the climate and environmental issues than we think. So it was, for us, a source of a lot of hope going forward, especially as like we gear up towards like a political season.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. That really resonates for me. Would another person like to share just a very, very quick, like in a tiny one sentence nutshell, a highlight or an insight from your discussion group?
I put it in the chat, but I just wanted to speak up and say a really beautiful phrase was put out there that behind the numbers are the stories. But there's data, but then there's a human story behind every one of them and lived experiences. We were just getting into the personal stories, and it was really beautiful. So thank you again for this opportunity. Really, that it's don't forget that behind every number there's a story.
I love that so much. And I hope we'll continue to have more spaces like this. So please stay in touch with Climate Mental Health Network and our partners because, just as you say, Emily, I also regret the time crunch that people were just getting into into stories and into their sharing. And I think that there is so much value and so much. I think it's so good for our hearts, and also the research shows that our social connections and our connections in community and our sense of belonging, especially with other activists, makes so much of a difference in our resilience in our activism and in our engagement around the climate crisis. Hi again, everyone. So as we are coming into the last stretch of our evening together, I just wanted to invite Sarah, our beloved co-founder, to share some resources and just give another shout out to our partners who helped make this evening possible.
Hi again, everyone. It's really appreciate being here with all of you tonight. So we have a resources guide that I'm going to put into the chat, and it's links to all of the organizations that have joined as partners for everyone to get resources and connect with them and to learn more. And just a huge thank you again to all of our partners. So that includes Bowseat, Youth en Route, One Green Thing, Capacity, Bay Area Youth Climate Summit, American Public Health Association, Eco America, the CRE Task Force, Miami-Dade PTA, Student Conservation Association, Clio Institute, and Climate Cardinals. So thanks so much again to everyone for your partnership and for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. So I just want to really encourage folks, just as you continue to digest our conversations from this evening, to be checking out the resources and to also be reaching out to people that you trust to continue these conversations. And if you're needing support, again, I've put in resources for helplines, for crisis lines, if you are having a really hard time and if you don't have someone that you can reach easily. So I just wanted to lead us in a short, grounding exercise. So just inviting everyone to gently close your eyes or to have a soft gaze at a point in front of you. And I invite you to put one hand on your heart center and one hand on your belly, or just imagine that. And just breathe into that physical contact with yourself. Please thank yourself for caring. Thank yourself for loving this world, for loving life. Thank you for all of the care that you bring to your communities. And now pick up one foot and place it on the ground and pick up the other foot and place it on the ground, or just imagine your feet making contact with the ground below you, and just imagining or sensing into that contact with Mother Earth below. And imagining that with your out breath, that with each out breath, you have roots growing down through the soles of your feet down into the earth. And with each in breath, breathing in support and life energy. So breathing out, those roots growing down to connect with Mother Earth below. And breathing in a sense of peace and possibility. And then slowly rubbing your two hands together, or just imagining doing so. And bring those warm hands to your face, to your eyes, or just imagining that warmth. And then slowly bringing your attention back to the room. And I'm going to invite Laurel to close us out. And I don't know if Laurel, if you would like to lead us just in taking 3 breaths together, and then just to do our closing, if you're up for that.
Yes. Okay, so we'll take some gentle breaths in and out. In through your nose and then out your mouth. And then one last time, in and out. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I hope that you made some new friends and learned some new things. And I'd love for everyone to just type 1 word in the chat for how you're feeling right now. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here.